There's my YouTube. All my YouTube subscribers. All my YouTube subscribers. Hi, it's been a minute. Glad you're on. I am still promising you guys that I'm going to upload all my Nigeria videos, especially before I go back to Nigeria, which I will be going back to Nigeria. I won't even tell you when. I'm just going to upload the YouTube videos that I have. I have my YouTube audience here. I got my Facebook audience here. YouTube is right here. And Candace is trying to be in my live video. I don't know if we ought to let her, y'all. Should we let her? I guess so. I don't know. That might be dangerous. That's my daughter. Anyway, I am live on Facebook. I want to talk about the great work. Don't be getting on my live and then just showing the top of your bed and not showing your face. Yes. Happy Valentine's Day to you too. You probably need to listen to this because this might help you. All right, bye. You did? You went over there? Good. Ain't she beautiful? All right. That's my daughter chiming off. Oh, I got my screen back. Got my screen back. You know, they got this new feature on Facebook where you can chime in, and if you want to get in on my video, you can get in and you can get in on the discussion, and then I'll prove you to get in, and you come in and you join me. So right now, there's just a few people on. I'm on my live on my Facebook and on my YouTube channel. I have a YouTube channel. I want y'all to help me to hit 100 subscribers. I need y'all, when we hang up from here, to go to YouTube and to sign up and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Evangelist Marilyn Gay. Nobody else has that channel. You won't run into any other traffic. It's just me. I used to hate that name, but now I'm glad I'm the only one that has that name. Anyway, I want to talk to you about Nehemiah. And I didn't come to preach because I wanted to, I just felt an unction. I usually don't get on unless I really feel like I really want to say something. There's something I really got to say. And I want to talk about Nehemiah. I want to make it a long story short. And then I'm going to get to the part that I really want to discuss. So I want y'all to bear with me because I'm going to be coming from the Bible, but I'm not going to make it so biblical because today is Valentine's Day and I don't want to go scripture to scripture and then start preaching at y'all because I can preach. But now I'm more into trying to talk to women. I do want to give a shout out to you guys about my Thursdays at 7:00 p.m. We have a Zoom meeting on Thursday with the women on Women of Worth International. So if you're not a part of Women of Worth International, please invite yourself as a woman to be a part of Women of Worth International. And you can invite people. If you're already a member, you can invite other women. And it's to uplift women, to build women up, to encourage women. And this will be our 10th year, guys. Our 10th year anniversary is coming in October. We're going to have a great big conference. I'm not trying to do an infomercial right now because we got months to go before then. But there's just a little bit that I want to talk to you about today. Don't even know what I want to talk to you about, but something I'm going to say today is going to encourage you. I bet you it's going to help you. And that's why I have my glasses on and I have my Bible in front of me. But I want to tell you about Nehemiah. Nehemiah is one of my favorite characters in the Bible. Nehemiah was in the province of Judah. If you look at Nehemiah chapter 1, there was a remnant that was left in captivity in the province. And it was a lot of affliction and reproach. And the wall of Jerusalem was broken down. And the gates were burned with fire. And Nehemiah heard about it. And when he heard about it, he sat down and he wept. And he cried. And he cried. And then he fasted and he prayed. And he talked to God in heaven. And these are the words that he said to God in heaven. And I'm reading it directly from the King James Version. He said, I beseech thee, O Lord, God of heaven, the great and terrible God, that keepeth covenant and mercy for them that love him and observe his commandments. Let thine ear now be attentive and thy eyes be open, that thou mightst hearest the prayer of thy servant, which I pray thee now day and night for the children of Israel, thy servants, and confess the sins of the children of Israel, which we have sinned against thee. Both I and my father's house have sinned. We have dealt very corruptly against thee and have not kept the covenants or the statutes, or the judgments, which thou commanded thy servant Moses. Remember, this is Nehemiah talking. He said, remember, I beseech thee. That word beseech means I beg of you. He said, I beseech you, O God, that you remember the word of the commandment of thy servant Moses, saying, if we trespass, you will scatter us abroad among the nations. But if we turn unto you and keep your commandments and do them, though they were of you were cast out into the uttermost parts of heaven, yet will I gather them from thence, and will bring them into a place that I have chosen to set my name there. Now these are thy servants and thy people, whom thou hast redeemed by thy great power and by thy strong hand. O Lord, I beseech thee, let now my ear be attentive. Let now your ear be attentive to the prayer of your servant and the prayer of your servants who desire to hear thy name and prosper. I pray thee this thy servant this day, and grant and ask that you grant your mercy in the sight of this man, for I am the king's cupbearer. Now, let me stop right there. Okay. This is a story about Nehemiah. And if you read it, you go into the Bible, you just pull up the book of Nehemiah. Nehemiah saw that the walls of Jerusalem were broken down and the gates were burned and everything was destroyed. And he felt so horrible and so devastated by it. It broke his heart. So he began to fast and he began to pray to God. And he reminded God of the covenant that he had told Moses, that even if he would scatter the people of the children of Israel from the east to the west, to the north, to the south, that if they repented and came back and confessed their sins, that he would gather them back up. So he fasted and prayed, and he felt like this for a long time. Now, mind you, a lot of times we think when we're fasting and praying, or we're going through something and we're miserable, we're upset, we're distraught about something, that God isn't hearing us. Well, the king he saw Nehemiah's face, and he looked at Nehemiah. And I'm going to go back to the Bible and I'm going to read this part to you. It said, it came to pass in the month of Nisan, in the 20th year of Azarates, and the king was before him, and he looked at him. He took up wine and he gave it to the king. He was the king's cupbearer. He said, now I had never before seen you sad in my presence. This is the king talking to Nehemiah. And the king said to him, why is it your countenance is sad, seeing that thou art sick, not sick? Why is your countenance sad? This is nothing but sorrow of the heart. Then Nehemiah got really afraid. And he said to the king, let the king live forever. Why should not my countenance be sad, when the city, the place of my father's sepulchres, lieth in waste, and the gates thereof are consumed with fire? Then the king said unto me, for what dost thou make request? So I prayed to the God of heaven. And he said, I said unto the king, if it please the king, and thy servant have found favor in thy sight, that thou wouldest send me unto Judah, unto the city of my father's sepulchres, that I may build it. And the king said unto him, Nehemiah, the queen was sitting by him, for how long shall thy journey be? And when will thou return? So it pleased the king to send me, and I set him a time. Now I want to talk to y'all. Let's see who's on here. Diamond, Malachi. Happy Valentine's Day, Dontrice. Diamond, Dontrice. Hi, Malachi. So anyway, this is what was going on, okay? In Jerusalem, in Judah, the land, the walls of Jerusalem were torn down. The gates were burned with fire. And it bothered Nehemiah so bad. And he was the king's cupbearer. And he began to fast and pray, and he talked to God first. First, he talked to God. So, number one, if something bothers you terribly, don't go talk to your friends. Go talk to everybody else. Talk to God about it first. So he began to talk to God, and he began to remind God of the covenant that he gave Moses. He told Moses that no matter how far away I scatter you, I'll gather you again if you repent to me. So he began to talk to God about how the walls were lying in waste in Jerusalem. It bothered him so bad. and he talked to God about it. It got to the point that it bothered him so bad that he was before the king and giving him wine. And as he was giving the king his wine, the king noticed that Nehemiah's countenance was sad, and he knew he wasn't sick. So he knew it had to be something to do with the condition of his heart. And he said, "Why are you so sad? Why are you looking like this? Why are you before me and you're not happy like I'm normally used to seeing you?" And so Nehemiah went ahead, even though he feared the king, he went ahead and told the king why he was sad and why he was upset. And when he told the king why he was upset, the king said, "Well, what do you want me to do?" And he said, "If you will allow me to go and rebuild those walls, if I could go and rebuild those walls, allow me to. Please allow me the permission to do that." And the king said, "Well, how long will you be gone?" And so Nehemiah set a time that he will be gone. And with the king's permission, and I didn't read this in the Bible, but the king gave him letters. He gave him a letter to take with him and said he had permission to go and do this work. So the title of this that I'm talking about today is "You're Doing a Great Work. Don't Give Up." You're doing a great work. Don't give up. I want to talk about this. Okay. A lot of times we get something in our heart that discourages us about the condition of our family, the condition of our situation, the condition of the world. Let's point at the world right now. When we look at the world right now, we look and we see that the world is on opposite ends of the spectrum. You got the Democrats, you got the Republicans, you got Christians that are spewing out hatred, hateful things. We're talking about preachers, pastors that are talking hateful things about different people that have different political affiliations. And we have Christians that are talking about hateful things concerning who's in administration, who's not in administration. Our focus is so thrown off, and it makes us a sad country now. Right now, the whole world is looking at America. I have Nigerian people that contact me and say, "What's going on with the election? What's going on with America? What's going to happen now?" Because everybody looks towards America as this superpower, as this great power in the earth. And situations look bad and circumstances look terrible. Not only in America, but looking at our family situations and our family circumstances or what we're going through right now. Sometimes it looks horrible. It looks terrible. Or we don't know how to deal with it. We don't know how to adjust to it. And so it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going through something. It could be something that is troubling you in your heart about someone else. And if your heart is troubled, first of all, know that God is able to discern your heart, and he's able to put you in a position to do something about what is troubling your situation or what is troubling your heart. Now, I felt really, really impressed to get on today, it being Valentine's Day. You know what I thought about today? Today is one of the loneliest times of the year. Why? Because we make a name for today and we call it Valentine's Day. And if you're a person that does not have a Valentine or somebody you love that you're able to say Happy Valentine's Day or give a card to or be happy with, then you find yourself in depression. The same way with Christmas. If you don't have somebody with you during Christmas, then you turn it into a pity party and a depression. And so we label things, we label names to days, and we allow those things to turn our tide or turn our situation or turn how we feel about things, how we feel about circumstances, and how we feel about situations. We allow it to change our heart. But Nehemiah had a specific situation that was troubling him, but it wasn't something that was troubling him inside of himself. It was outside of him, a situation that normally you would look at and you couldn't do nothing about. Just imagine if you walked up and you saw a building in ruins, you couldn't do anything about it. Just like my property in Tennessee, the church roof done fell down. the floor done halfway caved in. There ain't nothing that I know to do about it because I'm not a contractor. But I do know one thing, that there is somebody that can do something about it. So these things, a normal person would think, oh, that's just a building. Don't worry about it. But if it's something that has to do with something that you created years ago, that was your baby or your project, you might have had a child that was born years ago, and 18 years later, they've been in a major car wreck, and you don't know if they're going to live or die. You might have a friend that's in COVID-19 that normally was totally healthy, and right now they're holding on to life or death right there at the edge of it. And this is something outside of yourself. So these type of situations that trouble us outside of ourselves are something to be commended about, because most people in the world today, they allow situations that are within to trouble them. But if you're a person that right now you can get out of your pity party and you can say, okay, there's somebody outside of me that's going through something. There's somebody outside of me that is hurting more than I am. There's somebody that's about to lose their home. There's somebody that's about to lose their job. There's some things outside of me that are troubling me. Well, the first thing that is commendable to you is that you actually still have a heart. You actually still have love. That means that you're a human being that can care about something besides yourself. And then if you're a kind of person that you don't have much at all, and you're still concerned about something someone else is going through, or something that is bothering someone else, or this situation that somebody else is going through that they don't know how to get out of, or what to do concerning that situation. I'm just asking you today, on Valentine's Day, this day, and I believe that God is asking us today to think outside of ourselves, to stop thinking within ourselves. Within ourselves, we think, oh, I don't have that car that I want to have. Within ourselves, we think, oh, I can't get that house that I want to get. When there is somebody that is outside of ourselves, they ain't even got a place to live. There's somebody that is outside of ourselves that don't even have a school to go to, that COVID has shut down their opportunity to see their friends, to be in contact in close proximity to someone that they would love to see, but they can't see because COVID-19 has come, taken away a lot of our civil liberties. And even if COVID-19 has not taken away our civil liberties, then the governments have taken away our civil liberties. But if we can stop thinking about ourselves just for one moment on this Valentine's Day, if we can think about Africa, if we can think about that poor person that is walking on a cane or walking on crutches, that doesn't have a second leg, if we can think outside of ourselves for that person that all they have is rice to eat, or bread and water to eat, and they have nothing else to eat, that's how their stomach survives every day. I'm saying to you that there is a place that you can get in God, where you don't just think about yourself, but you think outside of yourself. And I'm asking you today to think outside of yourself on this Valentine's Day. Not that you don't have somebody to be to hold, or to say I love you to, but think there's somebody that just lost their mother to COVID-19. There's somebody that just lost their sister or their brother to a car wreck. I'm just asking you today to think outside of yourself. Well, Nehemiah was one such person. Nehemiah was a person that looked at the destruction of what was once the greatest wall of Jerusalem. The wall of Jerusalem was a magnificent wall, and it was beautiful in its sight. And before the destruction of the wall of Jerusalem, it was magnificent. Israel was the mighty and chosen people. But then Nehemiah saw that the walls of Jerusalem had been torn down. It was laying in waste. Everything was destroyed. And he began to think outside of himself. Not that he was in a palace, that he had everything, because he was a king's cupbearer. That means that he had privilege. That means that he had prestige. Some of us have so much privilege that we are so bougie and bougeified that we don't even realize just how blessed we are. But if we could just sit for a moment on this Valentine's Day and just look outside of ourselves to something that is destroyed for someone else's happiness right now is destroyed. Somebody else's home just got burnt down. Somebody just lost their job. Somebody lost the ability to provide for their children. And we, on this day of all days, which is called a Saint's Day, Saint Valentine's Day, it is really a pagan holiday. But we take this one day and we'll allow the devil to make us feel like we're lonesome, we're without, we don't have anybody, that there's nothing that we can hold on to or grasp onto that is good. But I want to say today that God is good. And one thing about God is he is so good to us that he can look on, and I'm talking to us as USA and Americans right now, that he can look on us in America, that despite the fact that Christians are at each other's throats because one is Republican, one is Democrat, or sisters and brothers are at each other because they feel like this one's wrong or that one's wrong. And then you have a person that tries to mediate and say, well, this is why this one thinks like this, and this is why this one thinks like that. That just tries to make sense out of things. Well, we're living in a time right now where we can't make sense out of anything. We don't even know if the banking system is going to be reliable tomorrow. Oh, you don't hear me today. We don't even know if our money will mean anything in the bank. So you better take heed to what I'm saying. We don't even know if the stock market will crash. We didn't even know that COVID-19 was coming. And I'm talking to Facebook right now, Facebook audience. We didn't know this was going to happen. And some of us are just acting like everything is just cool, everything is fine. But right now, we are in a crisis. Right now, we are in a pandemic. Right now, there are changes going on in the world that we never thought would go on, that we never thought we would ever see. We never thought, nobody ever imagined that we walk around with masks on our face wherever we went. We had to put a mask on in order to go and purchase things. Nobody ever thought that this would happen on the earth. Nobody ever thought that the Republicans and the Democrats would be at each other like we are now. Nobody ever thought that we would put so much basis on politics instead of God. But we're a nation right now that has turned our backs from God. Oh, yes, we have. We have turned our backs from God in so many ways. We don't pray like we used to pray. We don't fast like we used to fast. We don't sing praises. The churches are closed down in most of America. I don't know if Nigeria knows this, for my Nigerian audience, but you guys are having church and we're not having church like you guys are. And you are blessed to be able to be next to someone and have church without fear. But in America, there is fear and it is running rampant. And so if we could just take this Valentine's Day just today and think outside of ourselves like Nehemiah, it takes a person, a special kind of person that has a heart to think outside of themselves. It takes a special person that has a heart to get on here and talk to people like you and give a word of encouragement and think outside of themselves and lay their life down. And I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about different women that go on my Women of Worth page. And I can't even call it my page because God put it on my heart 9 years ago to start Women of Worth International. And it is a group page with over 160 members. And on that page, there are women that get on there tirelessly and they give a word to you. Or they put a post up there just to make you smile. Or there's something that they're going to talk about on that day that will encourage you. Well, that is people that are thinking outside of themselves. And I'm saying you're doing a great work. For those of you that are first responders, that are nurses, that are going on to the front lines, going into these hospitals without fear, not worrying about getting COVID, just knowing that this is your job and you have to provide for your family. You are a person that's thinking outside of yourself. I'm saying keep doing what you're doing. Don't let it down. Don't stop thinking outside of yourself. Number one, the first thing is for a person to have a big heart, they have to have a big heart to think outside of themselves, to establish certain things, to put things in place so that you have something that you can go to where you can get encouraged, that you have a hospital that you can go to, and that there's somebody still there punching in that clock and working tirelessly, even though they're seeing people die daily. Think outside yourself for a moment. If you're not a person that's a nurse or a doctor, think outside yourself and imagine who is a nurse and a doctor that is going every day to open those doors of that hospital, and they don't know that they are going to see somebody die or live, and they don't know what they could be bringing home, and they come home without fear. They clean themselves off. Somebody's life right now is to go home, wash and shower before they even touch their children, because they have to go to work because that's their job. Somebody signed up to be an RN and did not know that they would live in a day and a time like this. I'm just asking you just today, Valentine's Day, if you would take the love in your heart and think outside yourself. Think outside the box just for a moment. Nehemiah, he saw the walls of Jerusalem down, and he knew that was his heritage. And he said, these were my people's walls. This was what my people this was where my people lived. And now it's wasted, it's destroyed. And so how can I be happy? So Nehemiah was looking like this, and the king noticed it. And the king said, why is your heart so sad? Why is your countenance down? Why are you feeling bad? Why do you feel like this? Do you know that that feeling that you get that makes you think outside of yourself is not a normal feeling? It's not your own feeling. That feeling that you get where you think outside of yourself and you think to call that person that you know they ain't thinking about you, but you said, you know what, I'm going to call this person anyway, even though I know they don't like me, or they treated me bad, or they did this, or they did that. Think outside of yourself and do it anyway. So Nehemiah thought outside of himself and said, you know what, I'm going to go and I'm going to ask the king. He's asking me a question, and I'm going to ask the king to let me go and rebuild the walls of Jerusalem. The king gave his cupbearer. Don't think you're insignificant. Oh, you don't hear me now. A lot of y'all think you're the low person on the totem pole. Nehemiah was just a cupbearer to the king, and he was one of the low people on the totem pole. But Nehemiah got papers from the king. Do you hear me? You may think you're that insignificant, but somebody, Evangelist Sheena, is looking for a word from you. You may think you're that low on the totem pole, but the king's heart is in the Lord's hand, and he knows how to touch the king's heart and turn it whatever way he wants. So God turned the king's heart to give Nehemiah papers to go and build the wall. So Nehemiah took those papers. He took those papers and he went and set out to rebuild the wall. Now, let me tell you the story about Nehemiah. When he started rebuilding the wall, he was building that wall, and Sanballat was coming against him, and different ones was trying to come against him. And guess what he said? Nehemiah said, I'm doing a great work and I cannot come down. It's not enough that you think outside yourself, but it is even greater that you think outside yourself and then you get to doing the work. Now, it's not enough that you get to doing the work, but are you going to be consistent in doing the work? It's not enough to think outside yourself and then get to doing the work and be consistent doing the work, but are you going to keep doing the work when somebody's talking about you? Yeah. When somebody's saying all manner of evil against you falsely, are you going to keep doing the work? When somebody's putting you down, are you going to keep doing the work? When somebody steals from you, are you going to keep doing the work that God said and keep thinking outside yourself? Or are you going to quit? God is looking for people that will think outside themselves, number one. Number two, that will not only think outside themselves, but not be afraid when somebody said, what's wrong with you? Why are you looking sad? And they open up and say, I'm looking sad, not because of something that's going on with me, because I'm in luxury. I'm a king cupbearer. I don't have no problem happening with me. But I'm looking sad because my brother is hurt. I'm looking sad because my sister is crying. I'm looking sad because my cousin doesn't have food on her table. Are you going to be a person that's able to, when somebody asks you, why are you looking sad? It won't be because I don't have the car that I want, or I don't want the house. I don't have the house that I want. I'm just sad because of that. But are you going to be the kind of person that can say, I'm sad because of somebody else? I'm sad because of what's not happening in somebody else's life. Are you going to be a person that can think outside of yourself? Well, Nehemiah, if you read the story, began to build the wall and build the wall. And he had people to come and help him build the wall and build the wall. And guess what happened? They weren't going to let them build the wall and not come and try to stop them. They weren't going to let them build the wall and not come and try to talk about them. They weren't going to let them build the wall and not come and try to discourage them. But they decided that they wanted to attack them while they were building the wall. So guess what Nehemiah did? Did he quit? No, he didn't quit. Did he give up? No, he didn't give up. Did he throw in the towel? No, he didn't throw in the towel. I'm talking to somebody that you have been thinking outside yourself, doing some things, and then there's discouragement coming from your loved one, and you still got to finish your commitment. A lot of times we want to bring other people into our commitment. Well, guess what? You might end up being the one lone person by yourself carrying on the job. You might be the only person in that household that continues on to take care of those kids. So, who are you going to trust? Are you going to trust yourself? Are you going to trust God in yourself? Are you going to trust nobody at all and give up? I'm saying keep doing what you're doing, thinking outside of yourself. If you're a kind of person that thinks outside of yourself, you're going to say, hey, I'm not going to be that mom that runs away from her family. I'm not going to be that husband that leaves his family. I'm not going to be that spouse that goes on and gives up just because this person is not with me or that person is not with me. Because I don't know about you, but there's a song that used to sing that trouble don't last always. Everybody has a season. And if you're in a season of trouble, trust me, there's somebody that's not in a season of trouble that you can get encouragement from. If you're not in a season of trouble, stick around. You're going to have a season of trouble. But I come to tell you for sure that if you're by yourself on this Valentine's Day, think outside yourself. There's somebody that ain't got nobody, period. There's somebody that ain't got their health and strength. There's somebody that doesn't have limbs on their body. Just think outside yourself. What did Nehemiah do when he was attacked while he was thinking out of the box, thinking outside of himself, trying to accomplish some things for his nation of people? What did he do? He used the hammer in one hand and he told the people that were working with him, while you got the hammer, get your sword and your plowshare in one hand and your sword in another hand. In other words, there's going to be times in your life that you're going to be building and fighting at the same time. Building and fighting, hammering that nail, building up and fighting at the same time. What are you going to do when you're like Nehemiah, when you're faced with rebuilding a wall, rebuilding something that was torn down, rebuilding that legacy for your family, rebuilding that school, rebuilding that prayer time in your home, rebuilding the things in your family, trying to bring your family unit back together, trying to stay connected with your family, trying to be that one light in your family. There may be somebody in your family right now that is the only person that is the light in your family. Guess what? They need your help. Guess what? They're thinking outside of themselves. So on this Valentine's Day, I didn't know what I was going to talk about, but I did want to make sure that I got on because God impressed on me to get on today. I wanted to make sure to talk about something that God would give me. So I didn't have an agenda. So I took this Bible, I flipped it open, and it fell open. Guess what it fell open to? It fell open to Nehemiah. And it fell open to Nehemiah when he was being troubled on every side while he was trying to rebuild the wall. I'm here for somebody today. Somebody is rebuilding something in their life. Somebody is rebuilding some areas in their walk with God. Somebody is just stepping out on faith and just getting saved. Somebody is just deciding to say, hey, I want all that I do for Christ to last. Guess what? That same somebody, the devil is on your trail. The devil is going to try to stop what you're doing. He's going to try to stop what you're trying to build. He's going to try to stop what you're trying to say. He's going to try to stop what you're trying to do. He's going to try to discourage you. He's going to try to make you quit. But one thing about it, you have to be like Nehemiah. You got to be like Nehemiah. He said, I don't care what it is. I'm doing a great work and I ain't coming down. I don't hear you today. You got to tell the devil, look, devil, and you look the devil square in the eye and say, I don't care if you acting up in my child. I don't care if you're acting up in my husband. I don't care if you're acting up in my sister. I'm doing a good thing. I'm thinking outside of myself. I'm not thinking about myself when I'm doing this thing. I'm thinking about other people. So when I do things on purpose. When I plant my feet somewhere, I plant it on purpose. When I move on purpose. I don't know about you, but as there's some people that have never moved in their life. I commend you for not having to move all your life. I have moved several places with a purpose. I moved from up north to the south to save my life so that I could save my children's life. Now I'm testifying now. I moved from the south to further south to start a ministry with my husband to save other people that were destitute, that were on drugs, on alcohol, on all kind of prostitution, whatever the case may be. I moved from there to another place. Then God moved me from there to the further south. And I said, Lord, what am I doing here? But every time I moved with a purpose in mind. So you have to determine, is my life going to be a set of circumstances that just happen? Or am I going to start doing things on purpose? A lot of people say, oh, you went to Nigeria. I went to Nigeria on purpose. I went because God has called me to the nations. And I knew when God told me to go to Nigeria, I was going with a purpose. When I went on purpose. When I go back, I'm going back on purpose. Pretty soon, you guys are gonna be like, where is Evangelist Gay now? Because every time I do something, I do it on purpose. When I started Women of Worth International in 2009, I started it on purpose. When I started it, was there anybody that would hang in there with me? There was a few that would come along and they would encourage me. But guess what? When God gives you something to start, it's your job to do it and start it. And it's your job to finish it. You don't hear me. I said, when God gives you something to do, don't be looking at your neighbor saying, how come they ain't helping me? How come they ain't helping me do this? Guess what? At the end of the day, you're going to have to stand up and say what you did with the talents that God gave you in your life. So everything you do, I want you to do it on purpose. I want you to think outside of yourself. I want you to stop thinking about woe is me, what you're going through, and think about what somebody else is going through. And when you begin to think about what somebody else is going through, God will put it in your heart and put it on somebody else's heart to provide provision for your vision. So don't think that your efforts are in vain. Don't think that the efforts with your family are in vain. Don't think that the things that you decide to rise up to do to make somebody else happy are in vain. Nehemiah's work was not in vain. So built them the wall in Nehemiah's day. So built them the wall. And he said, I'm doing a great work. I cannot come down. So don't get mad. Don't get mad if you don't see me coming down. Don't get mad if you don't see me stopping. Watch my smoke. Oh, yeah, watch my smoke. You're going to be able to say to your enemies, guess what? God is using you for my footstool because there's some stuff up there that I got to reach and I need a footstool. So don't get mad when you start getting enemies. Don't get mad when you start getting haters. Don't get mad when people start saying all manner of evil against you falsely. Just know this, that unto God you live and unto God you die. And God is looking for people that are going to think outside of themselves. Think outside yourself like Nehemiah did. And as you think outside of yourself, God is going to make a way for you to get those things that you need. He's going to make a way for you to have the provision for your family. He's going to put money in your pocket, money in your hands to do the things that he wants done in the earth. You think God is looking at the earth and looking at America and looking at what we're doing right now and ain't shaking his head? Oh, yeah, he's shaking his head. He's shaking his head. And they got so many puppeteers that are shaking their tails and shaking their tails. And there's so many things that are being pulled at our children and causing them to tumble on down to destruction. But guess what? There are some people that God's going to use to think outside of themselves. And while you're thinking outside of yourself, guess what? God is thinking about you. Don't think that God is not going to reward you. Oh, you don't hear me. I think I'm talking to somebody right now that you have been discouraged for a long time, or you have thought that you never, ever get to a place where God will bless you with something that's specifically for you. God will bless you if you think outside yourself. He's going to renew your strength. He's going to renew your mind. He's going to renew your willpower. He's going to encourage you and he's going to strengthen you. But you got to get out of that pity party. You got to stop thinking about just you, yourself, and you by yourself. And you got to start thinking outside yourself. Think about those people that don't have nothing. Think about those that don't have never had a loved one. If you've ever had love once and you're divorced, think about that you had love once. Some people don't get love for a lifetime. Some people, it takes them a long time. Some people's lives have been destroyed by divorce. Some people's lives have been destroyed by separation. Somebody is just holding on, believing God for that mate to come back. I just want you to know that God sees what you're going through and he sees what's going on with you. But guess what he's waiting for you to do? Think outside yourself. Don't be in the mully grubs thinking about what you're going through. Think outside of yourself. And as you focus on what's outside of you, God will bless you and everything that you do. So I just want to say thank y'all for watching. Thank you, my YouTube channel. You guys subscribe to my YouTube channel, Evangelist Marilyn Gay. Get me to my hundreds subscribers. And I just want y'all to have a very blessed and happy Valentine's Day and have a Nehemiah spirit. Get a Nehemiah spirit and think outside yourself. Signing out. Love y'all. Love you, Linda Law, Sheena Jones, all of you that signed on. Thank y'all. Bye-bye. Take care for now. Peace. How did I get them things on top of my head, guys? Look at this. That. I had some things on top of my head for a minute. Hold on. Okay, I'm back live. I'm back live. Okay, let me get my YouTube going. There it is. There it is. There it is. There's my YouTube. All my YouTube subscribers. Hi. It's been a minute. Glad you're on. I am still promising you guys that I'm